Again?
Herbology.
Herbology.
Guys, if everybody wants to take a seat so we can get started, that would be
Well, and
amazing.
or maybe I want to block your view from the exciting proceedings. But you're taller. I don't know. Maybe you're fine. Wow, and what video is this?
It's fireworks. You'll see later.
Oh, exciting.
Don't light it until you're told.
Yay! Sheer!
Formerly Korach and Nili Salem.
Hi guys, I'm Jodi. I see some new faces here. I'm the founder of JSC Israel, and I'm so excited to see real life class back. I think since BC, since before Corona, we had AD. AD is like after domestication, when we realized how much we can do at home. So since, or after distancing, I'm not sure which is the better description, but I think we had like maybe 1 or 2 classes here in Johnny's home in that time. And I remember coming to the class and everybody was sitting socially distant. And I remember seeing 2 people sit right next to each other. I'm like, Elisheva and Johnny. I'm like, I wonder if something's going on. Well, they got married soon after. So I guess that was like a good hint. But we also had another couple who came to that class, Ben and Rivka. And they came and they also recently got married. Becky. So they recently got married as well. So Shir and Beer, definitely, we've had our success stories from Shir and Beer.
We have another success story in the crowd.
How's the success story?
How are you guys a success story? Well, I think you just made Aliyah.
Oh, thank you. And we got to meet you in person, which was huge. Yeah.
I saw her on Facebook, and we've been following this year and year.
That's amazing. So for people listening online, someone has been following Shir and Beer, and you met
That's
Aliyah
amazing.
when?
A week before Pesach.
Oh, wow. And you also recently met Aliyah, no? And we have another new online. So how special that we get to meet people in person, and please make sure at the end you all introduce yourselves, and we look forward to having many more marriages and many more people coming to events. And on that note, now that we're back to live, we are doing a lot of things, and next week we have a full Shabbat program. Friday night we have a Shabbat dinner under the stars in EPIC. We have a Kiddush in the Saturday morning. We have a third meal also in 47 EPIC, a whole program. So stay tuned. Anybody who's not on the email list or WhatsApp, you should speak to Talia at the front. And Talia's just joined the JSC team. So thank you, Talia, for helping out. Okay, guys, tonight for me is actually, I'm going to hand over to teacher extraordinaire. But I just want to say a few words because my mother passed away a few weeks ago. And unfortunately, in South Africa, my parents both got COVID. Thank God my father survived. But after 14 months of socially distancing, and then they got it from a caregiver. And people don't always understand. They'll say, what? They didn't have like the vaccine? And it's like Africa. They only started vaccinating about 3 weeks ago. And I think they vaccinated about 1 million or 1.5 million people out of 63 million people. And we don't understand what a blessing it is to be here and not to be sitting and living with this fear. I felt like I just wanted to say a few words in honor of my mother. The Shloshim actually was last week, but I haven't really had opportunities to be at an event where I could speak. And I wanted to say that, my mother had a very, very hard life. She was one of 8 children. Her family were a very poor family. Her parents moved from Lithuania. And it was a real immigrant story. And she was the youngest of 8 children, and her mother passed away when she was 4 years old. And she was put in an orphanage Monday to Friday with her 3 younger siblings, And her father, who had to work all week, brought them home for the weekend, and then they went back. And it definitely had an impact on her that time of her life. And my mother, because of this, was not very emotional. She was not very demonstrative. But she had certain things that defined her, and she was a teacher, a school teacher for over 30 years. She taught at Jewish day schools. And when I was younger, she was known as that really, really strict teacher that everybody is like terrified of. And I guess when you're a kid and like everybody's like, "Are you Mrs. Newman's daughter?" I was like, "Oh yeah," like she was. But really, one thing I learned during the whole Shiva was how many hundreds of people came to pay tribute to her for being such a dedicated educator and really focused on the power of children learning, and she was so committed to the cause. She was also a fighter, and she took on causes in so many ways, and I saw that, whether it was the gardener who had worked for my parents for 30 years, and he was an illegal man who arrived in South Africa, which is what happens in South Africa when you live over a border and you have to feed your family. And for over 30 years, she made sure he had jobs, he had places to stay, she just always took on his case, and she was always fighting. And when he heard the news, he just started to cry because she was his defender. She fought for him. She fought for the underdog. The other thing that was amusing to me, but it was also something I didn't really know, how many neighbors came. In South Africa, it's like falling apart. You could live in the nicest, most expensive neighborhood of South Africa, and they have water outages and electricity outages and many things going wrong. And my mother was that person, if it was like 311 or whatever the number is in New York for the municipality or here, she was always calling them and complaining. And everybody walked in, all the neighbors, and they said, "Who's going to like fight for us? Who's going to fight for the neighborhood?" And she was also a hostess that hosted so many people. Nili, in fact, was in South Africa in December, and we had the opportunity to host live shir and beer from my parents in South Africa while I was there as well. But my parents always hosted so many events in their homes, whether it was this one's 25th wedding anniversary or school party or bat mitzvah or bar mitzvah. And she, I didn't even understand the impact of my mother's hosting. Being she was the youngest and we were the youngest kids of the cousins, a lot of my cousins are a lot older than me, and they South Africans live all over the world. But we had a couple of Zoom shivers, and it was amazing to hear all my cousins share how much impact my mother had on their lives, because she was the person who made the kiddush for their wedding or for their bar mitzvah or for whatever it was. She was there. I'd never seen her with that set of eyes. And then her most recent job had become to be my PR agent. I put out a book last year, Chutzpah, Wisdom and Wine, and if anybody knows me, I'm very famous for lots of l'chaims. And if you are interested in the book, Talia has the book, but she became my PR agent, and every time I did a public talk, and everybody who came to Shiva was like, "And your mother forwarded this message to me," and she forwarded this message. And, it's something that I learned, and to reframe a message, because my mother was actually a giver. She wasn't demonstrative, she wasn't emotional, but she was a giver. And if the meaning of the word ahava, have, is to give, then she really gave her love through giving. And not just to us, but to a broader community, whether it was her students, staff, or family. And I think that for me, Shiva was a time where I shifted my narrative. And I realized something. He said to me soon after the Shiva, I hosted. And if you know me, I'm always hosting people. I have people in my house for meals. And he said, "How can you be hosting a meal so soon?" And I was like, I don't know. I grew up in a home where my parents always hosted meals. My parents were always having people. They weren't religious. And I said, so to me, it was, for me, it was just normal to have like people in the house. I'm competing with Siri there. And it was just, and one of the things that's interesting in my book, I dedicated my book to a Holocaust survivor who really impacted my life. And I attribute a lot of the reasons I host to her. And someone said to me, "Oh, so you learned to host from your mother?" And I hadn't thought about it, guys. I didn't grow up religious. I became religious. My parents weren't religious. So therefore, in my rebellious like teens, when I connected to this woman who became like my mentor and on my religious journey, I didn't think about the impact that my parents or my mother had on my journey. And I think that is, you have the opportunity in Shiva to change your narrative, to see the world in a different way. And I think the whole concept of Kabbalah, of tzimtzum, of expansion and contraction, is exactly that, where we can change and shift our stories, and we don't have to be stuck in the same story for the rest of our lives. And Nili's going to speak about Parshat Korach here, and I think we see in Parshat Korach that Korach and the rebels were angry with Moshe and Aaron. They felt that they had taken a stand and they were above the rest of them, and they were really angry, and there was infighting. And moms know how painful it is when their children fight, and there's no greater joy when their children get on. And there's the case of having an argument for the sake of heaven, which is for Torah, for halakha, for sake of something meaningful, or having an argument just to prove that you're right, for power. And I think for all of us, we have the opportunity here. We've lived in a very contentious time, whether it's been political, or it's been over vaccinations, or it's been over many things of the way we see the world, that we can all try see the world in a way that would make every mom proud and bring us all together. And and that the power of changing your narrative, if you think about it, we all have two eyes. Why do we have two eyes? Because two eyes give us depth of vision. And when you have depth of vision, you have the ability not just to see the superficial, and to see more of the story. And that's what I learned from my mother, and over the Shiva, the opportunity to see more of the story. And my blessing to all of us is that we get to be able to see a story in a way that we, as the people of Israel, the children of Israel, can make peace for all.
Amen.
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 Vulnerable. Hello, Facebook. How are you? Hello, not Facebook. This is so cool and unique. I'm so not used to this. I don't know what to do anymore. Okay, so first we usually begin with a song, but we're not. Okay, so just to begin, always refuah shleimas and just dedications to my Ima, Shoshana Bar Chanachaya, to Miriam Shprinza Sarah Bat Yenta, to Noah Moshe Yona Ben Yael, Levi Yitzchak's Abba, who's one of the sponsors for pizza tonight, Aryeh Ben Rachel, to Razel Miriam, to Chana Esther Bat Adasa, to Deborah, to Nachman, Yerachmiel Ben Leah Golda, and Simcha Bat Rachel. We also want to continue to wish Jodi's mom and Aliyat Neshama, Esther Bat Yehoshua Leib. We also want to wish a B'Sha'a Tova to our friends Shendel and Bambi, and a thank you to Hashem for organizing this, for bringing us together. My Rebbe used to say, nothing is random and souls travel together. So look around. This isn't random. We're waiting 5,871 years to sit in the same backyard together. I also want to say a huge thank you to Johnny and Elisheva, who are not here this second, but they're, a new Chatan and Kala, and I actually had the pleasure of meeting Elisheva before Johnny in Indonesia. So that's cool. And also to Jess and my friend Bracha, who hosted me this week, so it was possible for me to come in. Mazel tov to our friends Sarah and Dahlia on the birth of their baby girl. Happy birthday to Revaya and another person in the audience who wishes to remain anonymous. And my prayer for this year is that I get to do this mamish l'shem shamayim, because as Jodi was talking about the machloket between Korach and Moshe, well, the Korach side wasn't so l'shem shamayim. And in all of our actions, it's a really good moment to it's a really good thing just to pause and be like, okay, some of the people here are going to Yosef's kever after. Am I doing this for me and for my glory? Or am I doing this for Hashem? I'm going to do this. I'm going to dress my child in this outfit. Am I doing it for me? Am I doing it l'shem shamayim? So already just to begin this year with this kavanah of asking ourselves, are we doing our actions l'shem shamayim or for the sake of our own glory? I have to ask myself this almost every day when I post on Facebook. Am I doing this for attention and so people see me in a certain light, or am I doing this l'shem shamayim? And oftentimes it's crossed over, and so it's hard to decipher. But that's first and foremost, one of the profound lessons. Yes, I mentioned it. Thank you so much. Awesome. You're the best. Thank you. Now, before we begin, every day this week I was doing research on the Parsha. Yesterday morning I ended up at the Kotel and I ran into Reb Shlomo Karliebach's disciple, Imuna Witt. And I asked her, what do you think about Korach? And she says, "Oi, Korach!" I said, yeah? She's, oh, wow. Korach, right? She says, you know what the thing is about Korach? We have to drink a Rahmanes milkshake. We have to drink a milkshake of compassion. Because all the time we're getting into fights or conflicts or issues. Well, at least I do. I don't know about you. But someone keep an eye on that? Yeah. Great. But she says that every time you get into a tiff with someone, whether it's your spouse or your boyfriend or your parent or your sibling or someone at work, to drink a Rahmanes milkshake. And because so many people love this, when she said this, I brought us Rahmanes milkshakes. So it's Yutvata ice cafe with a little bit of added coffee, so it's like a milk shake. Get it? So, but I warn you, it has caffeine. You could take it fast for yourselves if you want. Some of you enjoy it, but so just when you drink your Rahmanes milkshake, just know that you're already having kavana to have Rahmanes on the next person you feel upset about. And I was thinking about this on the drive here, and it was really helping me because I am really upset with somebody in my life right now. And I was going, okay, Nili, what would it be like if I drank a Rahmanes milkshake right now? So you shake it up, and then it's a milkshake.
Love it. What did the Rebbe say?
She says that when you're in machloket, there was a question from the crowd, and the question was, what is a Rahmanes milkshake? So Imuna Witt said, when you're in machloket, when you're fighting with somebody, when you're upset at somebody in your family, let's say, or someone at work, before you even process what to do, you got to drink a Rahmanes milkshake. The idea is Rahmanes in Hebrew is Rahmanut, which means compassion. So it's a great start off. And I like shtick, so I was really excited when I realized I could bring you guys Rahmanes milkshakes. All right, so here's the plan. Everyone put their name into the raffle to potentially win the amazing A Letter for the Ages, which will help us reduce our anger and increase our humility. If you want to and you didn't, we'll do the raffle at the end. We're going to have, here's the plan for tonight. It's an animated and somewhat participatory. You're going to have to bust out your phones at a certain point. You'll see. Yeah. It's an animated summary of the Parsha with the Midrashim. We're going to ask ourselves how this is like your job, okay? My job is to speak and try to project and not get too sweaty from this bright light shining on my face. Where's Johnny? I said it. Sweaty, check. It's like a tradition in this year. And your job is to participate, to go along with it, and you'll see we'll bring you in. We're going to have a prayer and a little game at the end, and then at the end, please God, the pizza will come. If we have time at the end, I actually plan to teach you guys a amateur kululum that really connects us to the Parsha. What do you really want? Do you want to do it now or at the end? Do you want to just get into the Parsha? Yeah. Amateur kululum right now?
Let's do it.
Yeah? Okay, fine, we're doing it. I need 3 leaders, okay? So I need a leader for this side. You're just going to stand there and hold this, okay? I need a leader for the center people. Leader for center people. Come on up. Someone's going to be right in front of the camera. Debut. Come on, Simchala, you got this. No chance. Come on, Fauci. Okay, you're the leader for the center, and I need a leader for... All you're doing is holding this sign. The sign says... Lo yisagoy el goy charev, lo yilmedu od milchama. But guys, this is spectacular, and I need your participation, okay? So here's what it is. I always think, what song would be the most, that's Fauci. I always think what song would be the most appropriate to start a class with, because it's really exciting. And I thought, you know that song, that prophecy, Lo yisagoy el goy charev, that nation should not lift up sword against nation. Velo yilmedu od milchama, will never even learn of another war. So I was thinking about it. It came to my mind. I'm like, what does that have to do with Korach? And I was like, oh, because a goy can be a nation, but a goy can also be a stranger. And if you're a stranger to somebody in your life that you're upset at, can everyone think of someone they're upset at, please? Can you think of somebody that you just want to punch in the face? I learned that from one of my clients. I thought it was the cutest thing ever. She's like, I just want to punch them in the face. I'm like, I love you. It was so cute and honest, you know? So if you have somebody you want to punch in the face, but like, God forbid, not really punch them. If they're a stranger to you, Even if it's your sibling, even if it's someone in your family, even if it's your spouse, if they're a stranger to you, you're ready to lift up sword. But if a goy becomes a brother, then we won't hear of any war anymore. Okay, does that make sense? Elliot, you had a funny face. Yeah, does it make sense? I mean, it was a great funny face. It wasn't like an insult. Okay, cool. Okay, you guys are the low section. Okay, you're following Ravaya. You're the easiest section, so I hope this is the least competent singing. Just kidding. You guys are following Fauci, and over here you guys are going to follow Shira, okay? You guys are the difficult section. Get your game on. It's very, very easy, and by the time we end up singing it together, you're going to be mind blown, and we'll do it at the end. Are you ready for your first amateur kululum?
Yes!
All right, here we go. Are you ready, guys? Here's what you do. Ready? Lo yisa goy el goy cherev lo yumedu od milchama. That's it. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev lo yumedu. You actually have to sing. Od milchama. Yours is the same pattern, so get ready. Okay, try again. Ready this section until Adele. Ready? Lo yisa goy el goy cherev lo yumedu od milchama. Do you have it? You have it? Yeah. I don't know what. Lo yumedu od milchama. You repeat od twice. Okay, your part. You guys, ready? We'll include the boys. Okay, ready? Lo yisa goy el goy cherev lo yumedu od milchama. You ready? Lo yisa goy el goy cherev lo yumedu. You're gonna have to participate better. Od milchama. We're gonna try it again. You're doing great. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev lo yumedu od milchama. Okay, we're gonna try those together. You ready, guys? You, sir, you're going to have to participate. I know you can sing. Are you ready? Lo yisa goy el goy cherev lo yumedu od milchama. You got it. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev lo yumedu od milchama. Ready? Keep going. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev lo yumedu od milchama. Pretty amazing. Ready? Lo yisa goy el goy cherev lo yumedu. Okay, Johnny, you're in this team. Jodi, you're in this team. Okay, good pass. You pass. You got it? You guys got your part? You guys got your part? Okay, Jodi, we need you over here. Okay, you ready for the hardest one? It's really hard, though. And I'm going to be a little embarrassed to do it, but you just follow with me, okay? It's really high. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev lo yumedu od milchama. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev lo yumedu od milchama. You got it? Lo yisa goy el goy cherev lo yumedu od milchama. Okay, ready? Here we go. We're gonna amateur kululum on its way. Okay, ready? I had a coffee. Okay. I had a Rahmanis coffee. Okay, ready? Bye. Okay, but guys, can we get some? Lo yisa goy el goy cherev lo yumedu od milchama. A little stronger, and then you keep going. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev lo yumedu. Clapping helps. Keep it going. Ready? Lo yisa goy el goy cherev lo yumedu od milchama. Come on, one more time. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev lo yumedu od milchama. Keep it strong. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev lo yumedu od milchama. Awesome. Everybody clap. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev lo yumedu od milchama. Okay, here we go. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev lo yumedu od milchama. Lo yisa. Keep it going one more time. So here we go. Here we go. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev lo yumedu od milchama. One more time. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev lo yumedu od milchama. Guys, round of applause. That was actually pretty epic, no?
Amazing.
Guys, you just became a choir in 5 minutes. No, come on. Can I just have a round of applause for you guys? Has anyone ever done an amateur kululum? Me either. I was like, please, God, I really want this to work. I think it was, guys, but seriously, that was really good, no?
Amazing.
We're going to do it at the end. We're going to do it again. Okay, so my blessing before we even start, after we know to drink the Rahmanis milkshake, is to stop looking at the person that we're having trouble with as estranged or a stranger to us, because when we begin to see them as our perfect mirror reflecting to us exactly what we need to learn, it helps us soften our heart and take the machloket down. Okay, so we are using Korach today as a mechanism to understand how we fight. Please raise your hand if you're an excellent fighter and you're always mature and you always treat everybody with kindness when you're fighting. Great. Nobody raised their hands. Oh, we have one person that raised their hands. And based on the way his wife thinks of him, I believe him. Okay. Role models. Okay. I have like 2 minutes of nice fighter in me, and then I just lose it, and I'm not cool. I got 2 minutes. I got 2 really golden minutes. But everything we're talking about is going to help us become a kinder fighter, okay? So this class is supposed to also help us become more honest with ourselves, because what you'll find, which is what I found, is when I was going through the Parsha, I kept saying, whoa, Korach is low, whoa, Datan and Aviram, they just throw low blows all the time, like how rude. And then I stopped, I was like, hold up, I do that, I do that, I do that, I do that. And so it's just, what I love about Parsha is every year it gives us an opportunity just to reflect on some very meaningful different aspect of our life. And I think fighting is something we're embarrassed to talk about. But we all deal with it at some point, right? Whether, again, it's your spouse, your partner, your kids, your parents, at work, you're fighting with somebody. And maybe not him. Okay. So, and I have to be very honest. What's very, very honest is that, this is like so personal, it's okay that few thousand people are watching. My poor family is like, the first time in my life, in 37 and a half years, that I've ever been in a real machlokes with somebody, haven't spoken to them in 6 months, and it's so bad that actually this week, we've been trying to pull it together. Only this week, we actually hired a mediator, and it was horrible. It was so bad, but it was amazing, because what are the odds that on Parshat Korach, after the first really painful machloket in my life where I really could not solve it by myself, and the person that I love, we really could not solve it, that we would hire a mediator to try to find peace on the week of Korach. So I just wanted to be very real with you, because this is happening, really happening in my life. And I love confessing embarrassing things. I do, because we all go through them. And we're just too afraid to talk about it, you know? So maybe we'll change that and bring the Geula. Amen. Okay.
Amen.
Korach ben Yitzhar, deeply, deeply offended. Are you kidding me? Oh, Korach, please take the stage. Everybody, please meet Korach. Korach, please model yourself. Please model yourself in your beautiful blue outfit to the camera. You can just stick your head right in there. They can see your. Oh, you're fantastic, Korach. Guys, Korach gets a round of applause. And Korach also has his bling hidden. Would you please remove your bling so we can see it? Your bling is your gold. I'm not going to touch it.
Take it out of your shirt.
Take your. Okay.
Your necklace out of your shirt.
We need a man Vanna White. That's his bling. I actually left my golden dollar sign in spot. So
Make it rain.
this was great at the 1 shekel store today. He has a new version of bling. Thank you, Korach. You may sit down. You have such an illustrious ancestry from B'nai Kehat. I mean, you were chosen to carry the ark. Whoa, did you think about that? Of all the 3.5 million people in the desert, this man before you was one of the ones to carry the ark. He was intelligent, he was learned, he could school any of us in Gemara, kind of, didn't exist, but you know. He had Ruach HaKodesh. He had divine prophecy. How do we know? Because he saw in his lineage that he was going to have a very righteous descendant named
Shmuel Hanavi.
Shmuel Hanavi. So this week I rented a car. I felt like such an adult.
Did you have a
Of course,
license?
the car place I rent from never washes the car. So it's like you rent a car and rice cakes and Doritos and cigarettes. I'm serious. I got in the car. I was like, oh, cigarette butts. Okay. Mamash. SWAT car rentals. But anyways, I drove to Shmuel Hanavi because I thought how appropriate and special and wonderful to get to go meet the man who is the descendant of Korach. So he thought, wow, I have amazing descendants. Actually, what we'll find out is Shmuel was not in the merit of Korach. Shmuel was actually in the merit of his sons, who, as they were rolling into Gehenna, into the abyss, they did tshuva. We'll talk about it later, and it was in their merit that they merited Shmuel. That's very special for me because my name Nili comes out of the book of Shmuel. Maybe that's why I'm such a bad fighter. Oh, jeez. Guys, please laugh when I say awkward things. In my personal life, no one laughs when I say awkward things, so I rely on you. I'm serious. Ask my friends. Told you. Also, Korach, do you know this? Korach, according to Sanhedrin Kaf Vav, was one of the wealthiest people that ever lived. Move over Bill Gates, move over other rich people. Korach was one of the wealthiest. Mamish, one of the wealthiest people that ever lived, okay?
Expression in Yiddish, rich like Korach.
Rich like Korach. How do you say it?
Reich wie Korach.
Reich vi Korach means rich like Korach. Yeah, and this comes from Shmot Rabbah and Lamed Gimel and Hey and Bamidbar Rabbah. They're talking all about it. So how did he get so rich? This is all just to give you context before we get into the story. I am talking fast on purpose because you see, it's very interesting. Very interesting. He was so rich because Korach was an advisor to
Moshe.
a king. Which king?
Pharaoh.
Balabai? Pharaoh. He was a treasurer for Pharaoh. And not, so what did he know? He knew where the coffers, is that how you say that word? The coffers of Yosef were. Because there were a few stored hidden treasures. I really want to see you guys, but I'm just blinded by the light of your radiance.
We're blinded by the light.
So Korach was a treasurer for Paro, and he knew where Yosef's hidden treasure was. And so while the rest of the Levi'im were leaving Egypt without riches, he was like, 1 second. And he came out with one of the greatest treasures in the whole wide world.
Not all of it.
Not all of it.
Some of it is reserved for Mashiach.
Johnny Strauss says some of it is reserved for the Beit HaMikdash. Amazing. Okay, so now let's just find out a little bit more who Korach was, because this is fascinating. We know 2 of Korach's Gilgulim. Does anyone know one of them? Okay, so Korach, if you have to think of another figure in the Bible who begins with before this. Cain. You said it? Go birthday girl. That's my birthday girl. Korach was a reincarnation, according to the Arizal and actually a few other people, but I didn't list it, of Cain. And Moshe is a reincarnation of Hevel. Korach, Cain, Moshe, Hevel. Hevel means nothingness. Moshe is the most humble person on earth. So he is a reincarnation of Hevel. Now check out the trippy things that happen. What is the big nightmare that happened at Shaarei Tzedek this week?
The sinkhole.
Sinkhole. Oh my gosh. I was like, oh, what should I advertise this year with? Oh, let me find a sinkhole. And I go online and it says, Jerusalem Hospital has massive sinkhole this week. Raise your hand if you tripped out on that. Did you say really? Who said really?
I don't read the news.
The whole
7 cars fell in.
7 cars fell into a massive, like the size at least where all of us are sitting in the Shaarei Tzedek parking lot, and there's a massive crack forming on Herzl as well that they're concerned about. So massive sinkhole appears in Israel on the week of Korach. So Korach gets swallowed up by the earth with some of his followers. We'll discuss that. What else was swallowed by the earth if we're talking about Cain and Hevel? You know. Yes. Sinai Akiva. We went to the same elementary school. True story. Okay, so yes, the blood, when Cain kills Hevel, his blood gets swallowed up by the earth. So it's like, wow, Arizal, you were really onto something. And by the way, his yahrzeit is coming up not long. Now Korach, now this is a crazy one. I just learned this week. The other incarnation of Korach, does anyone want to take a crazy guess? He was somebody not Jewish. Okay, I'll just tell you.
Bilam?
Not Bilam, but it's you're getting into the era. Okay, so this is also from the Arizal, I believe. Korach was the reincarnation of the Egyptian that slept with Datan's wife, which was the reason that Datan and Aviram were fighting, which is crazy because what you see in the Parsha is that Korach gets into a conspiracy with Datan and Aviram. Meanwhile, he's the one that was starting problems with Datan and Aviram. If you know what I mean, back in Egypt, there's a scene where Moshe sees an Egyptian harassing a Jew, right? And Moshe then,
Smites him. Kill him.
because he was the one that went into Shlomi Bat Divri's house at night and tricked her, like another Rachel and Leah, haha, you didn't know I slept with you story. Weird, awkward. But yeah, so he was the Egyptian, and it's interesting that he comes back in this parsha now working with Datan and Aviram, but we'll tell you more. Okay, that was from the Yalkut Re'uveni also. So what's interesting to that Korach then aligns with Datan and Aviram, and don't worry, I'll fill you in on the story, but what's interesting is that we have these like cute shirts at like Fox that say, your vibe attracts your tribe, but here it's really true, because now they come to all these troublemakers, Datan and Aviram, they now attract Korach, which was the Egyptian. They're all just trying to make trouble. All right, so now, we're still contexting. Guys, thumbs up, how's everyone doing?
Right.
So good, so good. I got you. Commercial break? Okay. So his wife, Korach's wife, is notorious for being wretched. She was like, oh my gosh, like why, she could totally be from LA. Why are you not the leader? What does Moshe have on you? Oh my God, you came home bald? What did they do to you? Because Korach was a Levi, okay? Now Korach was, oh, I forgot to tell you something. I'll get there. Korach was a Levi, and when the Leviim got consecrated to like be up, like get on the team of like we're the Leviim now, on that one day, which I believe was the day that the Mishkan was inaugurated, I don't remember, but all of the Leviim, as part of their ritual rites, they had to be shaved head to toe, hair, eyebrows, facial hair, armpits, chest, back, whatever else you want to put hair on a man, toes like the Hobbit, right? Jewish men. Is that not funny? Was that inappropriate? So anyways, he comes home from being consecrated and he's totally shaved, and she's like, you look disgusting. What's wrong with you? And Korach is also the language I learned from my teacher, Mora Leah Golam, you asked from the Moshav. Korach is Lashon. How do you say bald?
Wow.
How do you actually say it? Because I don't know. Come on, Israelis, someone speak clear.
Korea.
Kireach. So Kireach and Korach, because Korach's wife teased him because he was shaven head to toe. She was like, oh my God, Moshe, he wants to denigrate you. He hates you. Okay, now you could think that Korach's wife was like a bi you know what. You could. But then I read he hates you, and I was thinking about my own fighting style, and I was like, oh my God, that's what I think when I'm in a fight with somebody. They hate me. They hate me. I mamish do think that. Okay, granted, I have a shadow belief called I'm hated, but we'll talk about my psychology later. But a lot of people share this belief, so I'm not so embarrassed to admit it. But that's what happens. We become Korach's wife. Remember, the story exteriorly is about them, but when we interpret it about us, and we wonder, like, why was Korach's wife telling Korach they hate him? Like, isn't that instigating? Well, why do I let my Yetzer Hara push me so far to believe that when I'm in a disagreement or if I'm not invited somewhere, so that they hate me? Like, Mugzam? Okay, great. Thank you, Korach's wife, for teaching me this. And this was the perfect timing for Korach's wife to incite him, because he was ready to incite this rebellion, because what had just happened last week is after the spies, we were told that 15,000 men were going to drop dead every single year, and that over the course of their time in the next 40 years in the desert, which is news to them, they're basically all the men are going to die. So the time was ripe. I want to go back and share something with you super cool. When the Bible introduces Korach, they call him Korach, ben Yitzhar, ben something, ben Levi, ben Kehat. Air 5. Say what? Thank you. I missed, the card is over there somewhere. Yitzhar ben Kehat, ben Levi. But why does it stop at Levi? Why doesn't it go to ben Yaakov? So I think it's Rashi, but I'll try to find it for you later, that says Yaakov saw in the future what Korach was going to do. He's like, please don't call him in my name. But then why would he be called in Levi's name? That's not cool. Like, Levi was also righteous. What did Levi do in his lifetime that we don't look favorably on him upon? This is going to trip you out.
With Reuven.
Also Shem. Okay, you guys are right. I should have been more specific. Sorry. Levi was the one who had the idea to kill Yosef. And Reuven saves him by throwing Yosef into a pit, a place where the earth opens up. And because Levi was responsible for Yosef going into the earth, Korach is then named Korach ben Yitzhar ben Kehat ben Levi, because Levi had a responsibility as well in this matter. Guys, isn't this mind-blowing?
It is.
If I just stopped at the reincarnations, I think it's mind-blowing. And I do talk like this when I don't have a coffee. Okay, so now we think Korach, he's going to incite this rebellion, right? He's going to make some drama. He's going to stir it up. Oh, you hear this gossip about Moshe? Oh, did you hear that? Oh, hey, Aaron. Get it? Aaron Cohen? He's Aaron Cohen. Oh, yeah. He didn't just come looking like Muhammad for nothing. Right. So he's gaining support. And he's saying, oh, did you hear what he said about Aaron? Oh, did you hear? Oh, my God. Moshe's wife, woo, her tang's a little bit too strong. He's gaining all the support. But what do we do when we're upset at somebody? Same. Oh, my God. This person, and my teacher, Morlea Golem, says if you have to vent, you could vent to one person. That's okay if you really need to vent. But after you get past one, it's not okay. And this is what we do. We stir drama. What am I supposed to do? I call Revaya. I also have to call Jess. And then what am I going to do? Revaya and Jess have different opinions. I have to call Helene. And Helene, she's cute and sweet, but she's not going to give me advice because she's so humble. I got to call Sam. And it's like there's 4 people, and I've just done a Korach, and I've stirred drama, right? And we really do. So he says to the people, and he's gaining support. He's walking around the camp, and he's like, what? Why did Moshe put the Leviim in the place of the firstborns? Hey, who's a firstborn here? Hey, firstborn, don't you want your job back? Who's a firstborn? Don't you want your job back? Why did the Leviim get it? Come on, Adele. I really think that Adele's one of my Rebbes. I really think I call Adele before the parsha and I say, hell, a lot of weeks. Come on, don't you deserve the position? So he's starting to rile people up. And in your own community, you could think, why did they choose her to have the shirat? Why is everything always at Johnny and Nili Sheva's? Why is it always at Jodi's? And we do stir in these small ways. I learned that in South Africa, they call it the kugel. Faribals, what is it called? The kugel ladies? I don't know. Apparently, that's what it's called in South Africa. So anyways, and then he says like this. He says, this is wild, because for our own fighting styles, this is amazing. He says, yeah, you know what they're trying to do? You know what Moshe and Aaron are trying to do? They're trying to keep it all in the family. They just want everybody in leadership within their family. Now tell me something. What was Korach's real agenda? Did he really want that everybody should be holy? I haven't actually told you his agenda yet, but that's his proposed agenda. He says, Am kulat tzadikim. Hello, we're all a righteous nation of Kohanim. Well, come on. Did he really want everybody to have leadership? No, Rashi and everyone else comments, no. This wasn't about everybody getting leadership. Like, he went to the 12 tribes and he's like, shouldn't you have an appointed leader? And he didn't want everybody. Who did he really want? Himself. So listen what he says. He says, Moshe's just trying to keep it all for him. What's the number one tactic we do in fighting? Please, coach. Just kidding. You want to projection. Usually, if we really listen to ourselves fight with another person, we're really just screaming at them all of our problems about ourselves. And if you look at Korach from a psychological evaluation therapist, it's like fascinating. It's mamish fascinating. You just want to keep it all in your family, screams Korach. Yeah, Korach, says the guy who wants it all for himself. Okay? And by the way, the quote that I meant to quote was Shemot 19:6, and you shall be to me a kingdom of Kohanim and a holy people. Let's get the Hebrew for that, Israelis. Mamlechet Kohanim v'goy kadosh. I was having trouble figuring that out at Gan Sipur today. Okay, so what did he do? He pulls off a good move, all right? Then he doesn't humble himself and go to his pain and sign up with his energy healer. He decides to throw a lavish feast and a banquet to get everybody drunk. Right? He gives everybody ice milkshakes. So I get them interested in the shear if I pump them up with a little caffeine. So hidden agendas, just kidding. Not really. So he throws, did you guys know this? Korach throws a lavish banquet just like Achashverosh. Also Haman did the same. Everybody who's not content with what they have, like Haman, for example, they want to get everybody else in it to try to shift their agenda. He throws a massive banquet, starts getting, Korach, who, remember we said he's one of the richest people of all time. He throws a lavish banquet. He buys everybody, please come model for us again. He buys, he has created for every single maybe step forward for Facebook. Shlomo Mordechai, I'm sorry that you didn't get to be Korach, but this dude is
he's rocking it. He's rocking it.
So, thank you, my friend. Very good. He bought everybody blue talitot, completely made of tchelet.
Whoa.
Right?
Did he lose his Ruach HaKodesh at that time?
Did he lose his Ruach HaKodesh? It seems like he must have, because he certainly wasn't happy, and you have to
Just
have
that
a level of
disconnect,
simcha. But I don't actually know the answer. That's just my not think about it answer. Yeah. Good question.
Dyed fabric like that. It's almost as valuable as gold.
Yeah, dyed fabric made from snails in the ocean when you're in the desert is totally like gold. And he's giving out 250. When's the last time you bought your friend 250 ball gowns? Made from France. Like, I didn't. I think I got Reveillon just socks.
I love those socks.
The truth is my mom bought them for them anyways. So what happens at a feast in the desert is you're eating slaughtered animals. And what are the rules when you have slaughtered animals? Who gets fed also? The Kohanim. So Elazar, son of Aaron, comes around. He's like, can we please have our portion for the Levim? Because all the rest of the Levim are poor. And they're like, you see, says Korach, you see, they just want to take everything from us. And here's how he starts talking to Moshe, because this is wild, all right? Does anyone need me to do jumping jacks or get your attention better? Thank you. Great. I like to overcompensate for my insecurities. But it's really good content, so we're good. All right, so he says, okay, but anyone on their phone, just do me a favor, put it down, because it's so hard for me. Or don't, because I can't actually control you. So he addresses Moshe, and he says, that Ben Amram, he doesn't even address him as Moshe. Can you imagine going to your local rabbi and being like, that Hartman, that Anava, or no, that Ben, I don't know. But he's not even calling him Moshe. The initial disrespect is wild. It's wild. I mean, really, can you imagine? Even if you're going to call your spouse, right, that Ben Ray, like, excuse me, my name is Shmuley, thank you very much. Yeah, whatever, Ben Ray. It's like you negate their existence, okay? Remember, what was the framework for the shiur? Are we talking about Korach?
No.
Everyone point to self, please. We're talking about ourselves. We tend to negate each other's existence. We tend to wipe each other off the map. A friend once called it cancel culture. May they live and be well. We cancel each other out. We do character assassination. We do, right? We do. And here we have it right before us. And he says, tell us, if we have garments made all out of blue, do we still need to chelet? Please. If I have a room all full of svarim, like Johnny and Elisheva's living room, do I still need a mezuzah? Come on. And you know what his setup was? So if I don't, then all of us are holy. What do we need you for, Moshe and Aaron? What do we need you for? We're all holy. You're the one that told us that when you gave us the Torah anyways. Yeah? So it was really gnarly, and it even got more gnarly because Korach and the factions then picked up stones. Now imagine, all of us, not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7, not 8, not 9, not 10, not 11, not 12, not 13, not 14, not 15, not 16, not 17, not 18, not 19, 20, around 25 of us, but something like that, but we're not counting. If all of us right now, is anyone not sensitive in the room? Jess. If all of us right now picked up stones and took our arms like this and started coming at you with stones, just 25 of us,
Terrible.
you would be terrified?
Yes.
250 of the greatest men of all time came to pick up stones, to come stone, to murder Moshe and Aaron. It's really intense. Did you guys know this part of the Parsha? They came to literally murder him. And you know what? Honestly, that's also what we do in fights. We go too low, we character assassinate, and really, if we're checking in on our rage, anger, it's murder, right? It's all the same. And they were literally up to try to murder Moshe and Aaron. And the more we simply become aware and honest with ourselves when we're fighting, even if it's just with the person, even if it's just with the person at the restaurant who tries to kick you out because you've been there too long. We had a little test in Machloket today. She might have passed, but I certainly failed. They're like, you've been here for 2 hours. Please leave. And they handed us the check. And out of my mouth came, rude. And I was like, oh no, it's Korach. And I just called the waiter rude. Like, I didn't even hesitate. I just looked at him. I'm like, rude. All my NVC went out the window. All my therapy skills. Then I was aware of it. And because I was aware of it, at least we can begin, all change begins with awareness. Okay, so more. Korach says to Moshe, and you failed at leadership. And now imagine. Now, by the way, Korach did not just muster 250 righteous dudes to come attack Moshe and Aaron. By the time he had gathered all the craziness in the camp, and this is in the Pshat, it says the entire assembly of 3 million to 6 million, whatever the number was, came also out to surround Moshe. So now everyone is there. Everyone is hearing this. Everyone is embarrassed. Imagine you're standing right here and everyone in your community gathers around you and says, your leadership sucks. You're a failure at leadership. You brought us into all this trouble. Imagine someone is saying this to you. You caused the death of 15,000 people every year. You know what? You went into Har Sinai, but all we got was the 10 Commandments. And you know what? You're making up the rest. And you know what else, Moshe? We're on to you. Listen what they said to him. You're not going to believe this. First of all, so they blamed him. 15,000 people every single year because of you. Blame. What's the number one thing we do in fights? Yep. Blame. Brene Brown says that blame is just a way to discharge anger and pain. Blame is a way to discharge anger and pain. And here they go. They're just blamey, all right? But here's what it is. Listen to this. This really got my heart. They said, your haughtiness and you're moving to your tent to the outside of the camp, we know why you're doing it. You're having an affair. And we know that Aaron is trying to cover this up. You're practicing adultery, Moshe. You're ruining our life, Moshe. Okay, now if anyone, I'm not going to say if I do this, but sometimes when I get angry at people, or the person that I told you I'm in machloket with, I've said probably like 15 times they're ruining my life. Don't we all a little bit do this? So good. Okay, I'm not trying to out you, okay? I'm okay saying my schmutz on the floor because, again, I just feel like we're all the same and we're just too embarrassed to say it, but awareness, right? This is what Korach did. So first, here's our first fun activity. Please now pull out your phones. We're going to empathize with our leaders. And I invite all of us, and I've done this myself so that I would be not just preaching. I would like everyone to please text the leader of their community and thank them for all the support that they've given your community, or just for something, or have empathy. Because Moshe, in this week's Parsha, where's the empathy? My heart was bleeding. When's the last time you told the Rav of your Kehillah, or the Rebbitzin, I really just want to thank you for the work you do for our community. You went to Shavuot. Did you thank them afterwards? Or if someone's an organizer in your community, have you texted them to thank them? So I'd invite everyone to take a minute, pull out your phone, and please send a thank you, because all of our leaders get way too much flack and not enough accolades. And nobody is perfect. Even Moshe Rabbeinu. If Moshe Rabbeinu could be told that they blame him for everything, and what about your leader? What about your Rav? What about your friend in the community who organizes it? I really invite you to take 1 minute, and I'm inviting you Facebook people, please take a minute, pull out your phone, and send a message or an email to the leader of your community, having empathy for them. You could say, I'm learning about Korach in a shir, and we realized our leaders get far more flack than they get empathy. And if we're not going to give them empathy, who is? So I really thought, I was like, oh my God, this is the most fun part of the year. So yeah, isn't that cool? Do you guys feel happy about doing this? I feel really happy about doing this. I did it because I wanted to make sure. Welcome. Yeah, everyone's writing their community rabbi or rebbitzin or just person in your community who does stuff. Because seriously, can you imagine how much flack they get? I gave one shir with controversy. I thought my life was going to end. Woo! Ah. Holy cow, I'm even like a community leader. I just give a little shir once in a while, But like the moment you say something controversial, forget it. They want to cut your throat. And I'm just a little person. Imagine big leaders. Yo, they get flack like crazy. And I believe we have to live the parsha. So if you got to live the parsha, you got to muster the courage and do something about it. So what does Moshe do? Now I've tried this a number of times and I've said this in other shirs. Moshe and Aaron literally fall on their faces. Now, what I've tried to do, I've tried to stand in my room with like cushions and fall on my face. I know it sounds funny, but I really am like, it always says they fall on their faces in humility, and I wanted to know what it's like. It's so humbling to even try to fall on your face, because it takes such bittul, such shiflut, such humility to just go down before God in service in humility and just fall on your face. And that was Moshe and Aaron's response. Like, I have nothing left. This is not about me. I'm just going to prostrate myself. And it says that they had so much, Moshe and Aaron had so much yirat shamayim, that when Aaron actually was anointed by Moshe to become the Kohen Gadol, Moshe put drops of the Shemen Mishcha, the holy anointing oil, on his forehead. And it says that 2 tiny drops dripped, one into one side of his beard and the other. And Moshe and Aaron cried and prayed out to God for heaven forfend that they should have wasted some of the oil. That's how God-fearing they were. My teacher, Moralea Golem, says that Shlomo Karlibach said to her that if no one is upset with you, you're probably not doing anything good in your life. Jodi, anyone upset with you ever? We just got a snort and an eye roll. Jodi is busy spending her life trying to do good things. And how much flack would you say you get a month? How many?
Well, they credit to someone in this audience who just sent me such a nice message, probably as a
Someone sent you a message right now.
saying thank you for bringing the events together. So I really appreciate the one big nice message.
Oh, that's so sweet. And you really resonate with that, right? As a leader in the community? Yeah, so, wow. Okay, so here's how beautiful it is. He says to Korach, Moshe says, this is his answer. Listen how awesome this is, okay? Because this is like mediation listening skills 101. Moshe answers Korach and his assembly. This is just simply the Midrash says. It's not simply, it's epic, but if like anyone struggles with Hebrew, just open this and you're going to be in like a world of glory. Moshe answers Korach and his assembly as follows. You claim that I seek greatness, that I appointed Aaron as the nation's high priest because he is my brother, that I made his sons Kohanim because they are my nephews. Moreover, you claim that I chose the Levim for the service instead of the firstborn for personal reasons, without a divine commandment. Finally, you say, I myself decided that the Levim should be subservient to Aaron. What did he just do?
He's repeating what he said.
He literally, before he even responds, and it says he did everything with a gentle voice, Korach comes to him raging, ready to kill him, and Moshe says, all right, here are your problems with me, I hear you. And if you ever go to like couples therapy or whatever, they make you repeat what the person says. They make you repeat it back to them. So they'll say, I really hate when she expects that I da-da-da. And you say, he really doesn't like when I do da-da-da-da, right? So it's amazing because as I'm reading this, I'm like, wow, it's like a beautiful psychological unfolding of ways to argue. Like you could just take this and make a whole book out of it. Okay. And he continues to address him with gentle words, which is why I went to the bookstore this week and was determined to put these in a raffle. I would have bought everyone, but they only had 9, so it's a raffle. But this book by the Igeret Ramban is a letter that the Ramban wrote to his son when he was about to travel, because he didn't know if he'd ever see him again. It's back in the day, you know, like you can't like Instagram them. That's not Instagram, is it?
WhatsApp.
In this book, he talks about how to take our anger first by using gentle words, and that should be helpful to us in abating the anger. How do you say that? Is that the word? You know, they say you make aliyah and you think you're going to be bilingual, but then you're like quarterlingual. Right. So anyways, so that's, he spoke, like noted, it's like extremely noted that he spoke gently, which I thought was really, really beautiful. Okay. So the test. Are you ready, guys? It's time for the test. There's going to be a big test. Now Korach is inciting this crazy rebellion against Moshe, and Moshe says, okay, listen, I didn't choose this job. Aaron didn't choose this job. Aaron lost his sons over this job. You think we want this position? Fine. Well, he didn't say it like that because that was way too intense. But he said, the Seder. So let's do this. Tomorrow morning, I want everybody to come with their fire pans. We're all going to light our incense and fire, and we'll see who Hashem comes down and approves. So I'd like everyone to please bring out their lighters and their firecrackers, because I really believe you have to experience the Parsha. If anyone's got a camera, maybe like click it on, because this is going to be cool. I want us all, so the front row has the lighters. Let me just show you for safety. You do not want to point these in anyone's hair. You want to point them up, not at the trees. They only go about yay high. But I want us just to take a moment of silence, because, guys, this is not about them. This is about us, right? Maybe our souls were there in that desert. You want to light the top. You want to hold it from the plastic. And when it gets to the bottom, it's okay. Nothing will happen, all right? It'll go for about 30 seconds. But I just want us all to feel like we will remember now that there was a Korach fire. So imagine you have your fire pan. Imagine your incense is on there. You're going to light the top and pass the lighter back. Mumsy, it's the opposite way. You light the side that's not plastic, and you can actually light yours on someone else's. Just don't point at anyone's hair. All right, here we go. Here we are. We are the faction of Moshe.
How does this light?
You're going to do it. You can also light it on the person next to you. You can also light yours on the person next to you. And just take a moment, and we're just going to imagine what it must have been like.
Oh,
Give a bum one.
wow.
Is the other side?
Someone needs
Oh,
here. You want to light it?
There's another one if somebody wants.
Beautiful.
And we can see, take this from me for a second. And we can understand what it was like in the desert as they were standing there and they're about to risk their entire lives. They're about to risk their entire lives. And they had to light a fire. And I just thought it'd be a really cool visual effect to feel like we were in the desert for a moment.
No, don't light me on fire.
You gotta bring the parachute
Very
alive.
subtle. What was
So here's the test, right? You bring out the fire pan.
What happened to yours?
This is so
Anyone who claims that he is chosen for service may come and fill his pan.
I don't know.
And if you are spared from death, your claim that you are all worthy of occupying positions in the Mishkan, you are correct and I am wrong. However, I warn you, this is a suicidal test. Don't worry, we were Moshe's faction, not, we were the healthy, we were not, well, just pretend that we're Moshe's people, right? We lit and we survived. Thank God the earth has not opened up beneath us. And it says that only the holiest person will survive. And upon hearing this, listen how crazy this is. Upon hearing these words that his life was on the line, Korach assumed that he would certainly survive since he was destined to become the man he thought he could be. Guys, do you realize what this is? Do you realize that every single person there who came up against Moshe was risking their lives? How convinced you have to be that you're right to go up against Moshe and know that if you're wrong, you die. Now here's the thing. Is it just me? Or when you get in an argument with someone, are you sure that you are right? Who's right? Who's right in an argument? Come on, everybody, pick your hands up. Who's right in an argument? Oh, look, this time everybody raised their hands. Except for the mitzmins. Teach us. Okay, so, it's just interesting because it say you'd risk your life to be right. And what happens when we're in anger? What are we really doing? What is anger compared to? Idolatry. And actually, you're meant to die if you practice idolatry. Shalom nada, no one should ever, Hashem, please keep us all alive and well. But every time we get angry, we're actually, in a way, committing spiritual suicide because we're meant to lose our life over that anger and over that rightness. So again, just humbling. Okay, now, let's see, I might skip a little. No, we're good. Okay, Datan and Aviram, okay? So who actually died? It's Korach, Datan, and Aviram. They're 250 men, and then the rest of the assembly, okay? So what ended up happening, so Datan and Aviram were super big troublemakers. One time I was doing shlichut in India, and these people traveled to come meet me because, a person from Israel comes, that's, really, really special. They traveled really, really far, and they came up, they think I'm some big rebbetzin that, I'm just kid traveling to India, let's do Pesach Seder. And they're like, okay, I love accents. I'm not imitating anyone. This is not on PC, okay? Yeah, right. But
There's an Indian right here. So.
oh, you come say it. So they're like, you can tell me how bad my accent is. They're like, we want you to meet our sons. And I'm like, yeah, I'd love to meet your sons. Their names are Datan and Aviram.
Whoa.
And I was like, biblical names. Oh, you read the Bible because they
Not
didn't.
very in depth, obviously.
Well, no, I mean it's pretty amazing. But I was so caught, I'm a good actress, but I didn't know what to say in that moment. Biblical names, right? They didn't know that Datan and Aviram are the biggest troublemakers and all that, but they were precious. They traveled 500 kilometers, poor, just to show up and have Datan and Aviram recite Aleinu for me. They were like, please listen, we taught them. I'm sorry, is this okay?
This is great.
Is it okay? And the kids stood there, Datan and Aviram stood there, Aleinu leshabeach ladona kolatet gidulai le'etzem bereshit. And I was like, I love you, Datan and Aviram. But I love my little precious Indian Datan and Aviram, but not these guys. These guys were really, really low, and they made a lot of trouble, and they really, really disrespected Moshe in a lot of ways, saying really horrible things like, we won't come up even if you gouge our eyes out. When Moshe started to speak, they turned his back on him and walked away. And when Moshe walked 2.5 kilometers to go to their tent to warn them not to participate the day before, they didn't even come out of their tents. That's like who's the greatest leader in Israel right now?
It's hard.
Biggest laugh of the night. No, is there a great is there a great rabbi or something? Okay, Rav Chaim Kanievsky, he should live and be well, okay? If Rav Chaim Kanievsky knocks on your door, you better get outside quick. And Datan and Aviram didn't, and they threw what I call a lot of low blows. And I'm not going to go into it because I want to respect everybody's time. But I just want to say that's one of the biggest things that I make a mistake in when I'm in a fight and I get in a really low place is I'll toss a low blow. And that's where it's not okay, because Moshe's reaction next. Has anyone here ever thrown a low blow? Like you didn't need to say it and you just said something nasty? It was just nasty. It was not necessary for the fight, right? We're all raising our hands again. So here's the thing. The next thing Moshe does, and don't worry, a lot of these are like short cards. The next thing Moshe does is he says, God, in the golden calf, he says, God, please forgive them. In the quail, God, please forgive them. Here, he says, God, use strictness and gvura and not mercy and kill them right away. Moshe says this in the pshat. Right now, right here, kill Datan and Aviram. This is where he demands that the earth splits open, that a crazy thing happens. Because why? If they're throwing low blows, they're far gone. We have to know that throwing low blows is our red line. And when I say we, I mean me. But to throw low blow, that's when Moshe stops praying for you. Because if you're going to do that, like, where's the relationship? So we really have to, Hashem, please bless us to train ourselves, okay? So that was a very surprising reaction. And I think it's also a note on toxicity. Right? If you're in a relationship with somebody that is acting toxically, Moshe says, no, get rid of them. Their influence is going to be bad for everybody. Okay, so.
What was the low blow?
Well, they did a lot. They turned their back on Moshe. When Moshe came 2.5 kilometers just to go get them personally, they didn't come out of their tent. They called him. They told him, gouge out our eyes before we even go up to your land. They said, you know what they said? They said, take us back to Egypt, to the land that flowed with milk and honey, because we don't want your desert. They called Egypt the land flowing with milk and honey. They literally used Moshe's bracha to them as an insult in his face. It's like if you told your boyfriend, like, I love it when you wear my blue coat or your blue coat, and he comes back to unify, he's like, and you're like, yeah, your blue coat's like something just unnecessary, something that's like so cold, like that which I love, you're gonna hurt me for. You know what I'm saying? Like that's low. When I read that in the parsha, you took us out of Egypt, a land flowing with milk and honey. Whoa, right? Okay, so. Checking in where we are.
It's such a lesson to know when to walk away from toxicity.
It's
really
also
is.
a lesson to know when to walk away from toxicity. Mamash, Moshe, who always appeals for compassion for everybody, said, ad kan. Okay. All right, so, by the way, with all of this, and this is very, very poignant and something I learned at Sam's house the other night, in all of this, you'd think, wow, Korach, Datan, Aviram, they're so nasty. Korach is like obviously like the worst guy ever. But you know what's crazy? The Lubliner Rebbe says, he refers to Korach as my Zaidi Korach. And he says, the Lubliner Rebbe, and I first heard this from Shlomo Katz, so I want to give him credit too, that had we been alive at that time, we would have had no idea who to follow. And that's really pertinent to our lives today, because even like myself and Jodi, we love each other so much. We have completely different perspectives on all of Corona stuff. And it's like, we don't know. Like, I don't know. We don't know what's right or wrong in this world. We don't know what's true or not true in this world. We don't have no idea. But you know what? That time we were like, I could even feel like I'm crazy because I don't even know what's true anymore. It's not new. It's not new, right? And that's why we have to keep asking ourselves this question is, I won't know what's right. I won't know if Corona truth is this or Corona truth is that. I won't know if Korach is right or Moshe is right. I won't know. But then what do I do in my life? Every step forward, I just ask myself, am I doing this L'Shem Shamayim? Am I doing this for the Ribono Shel Olam, or am I doing this for me? And that's the way through the craziness and the confusion. If you check in with yourself, and your best friend thinks this and you think that, or you see it this way and your Haredi friend sees it that way, and I serve God this way and you serve God this way, and it seems so confusing because what if you're right, then I'm wrong, and if I'm right, then you're wrong. But the next step, you just ask, am I doing this L'Shem Shamayim? So I thought that was really, really, really beautiful and profound. Okay, so sinkholes open up, the earth begins to tilt on an axis, all of the 250 men, and these are great leaders. Fire comes out through the Aron HaKodesh, through the wings of the angels, goes into them, sucks their soul, it completely annihilated all of their bodies and their souls, and boom, they disappear. Mamish disappeared. Even their bodies disappeared. There was no burial. Korach, Datan, Aviram, and their family, first, the fire came and sucked out their souls, not Korach's sons, we'll find in a second, and then their bodies rolled into the abyss. And the earth started sucking in everything, including all of their property and all of Korach's fortune, which, because it wasn't L'Shem Shamayim, disappeared as if it never existed. And I'll tell you about Korach's sons in a second, but the lesson is very, very deep. The lesson is because in the end of this world, Oseh Shalom b'mamav hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al Yisrael is not the end of the shir, although it sounds like it. The end goal is peace. And if you in your life, and if me in my life, we're not creating peace, at the end of the day, our existence is blotted out. Because that's not the end goal. If I'm making machlokes, it's as if I never existed. And they literally just disappeared. They were just gone. Now, at the end of the earth sucking in, and the details are amazing, and it says that Hashem had to open up Gehenna because they were going into Sheol, which is arguably either the 6th or 7th layer of hell. And Hashem had to open it from the bottom of the pit, because had Hashem opened Gehenna from the top of the pit, the radiation of Gehenna would have destroyed the entire world. Gehenna is radioactive. Isn't that interesting? Gehenna microwaves, just kidding. I stole one. 5G, yeah, mamash. Oh, I don't want to say anything controversial. I didn't say that. I don't want to be a leader in opinions. So, but check this out. Then Hashem, like a Disney movie or like a movie, makes these humongous platforms, like isolated platforms from the pit, and Korach's sons, who did tshuva, got thrown up onto the pit, and in the middle there's like Gehenna, and like don't step on a crack, break your mother's back when you're a kid. So they were raised on, they were raised on these high platforms and saved, because why? They knew the truth the whole time. But when Moshe and Korach were together, they didn't know what to do, because they said on the one hand we have Kibud Av, but on the other hand here's a Torah scholar. And one time when Korach and Moshe came together, they said we can't respect our father and disrespect the Torah, so they stood for Moshe. And in that one time that they honored Moshe, they merited to be able to do tshuva. And even though they were so scared and so freaked out as a literal sinkhole like this week was happening beneath them, they couldn't utter words, but their thoughts were, please Hashem, we know the truth, because even their thoughts, Hashem saved them. So sometimes we have a hard time uttering, but even your thoughts can help you do tshuva. And this is like so interesting, isn't it? It's only me?
Oh.
It's so interesting. I thought it was so interesting. Okay. Just see where we're at. Okay, so check this out. So cool. It says, you're gonna, when I first learned this, I was like, nuh-uh, it can't be true. I learned this from my teacher, Morale Golem. It's from the Midrash. It says, okay, so everyone now, they're sucked in. Oh, and by the way, so cool. After the sinkhole opened and the earth tilted in and they all exploded and disappeared and went on fire, and said the Korach went in rolling on fire, right, even though his soul was already gone, the earth went perfectly back as if nothing happened. There was no sign of disaster, okay? Do I need to know something? Or do you? No, I'm just checking. Okay, cool. So it says like this. It says, Rabba Bar Chana related, once while traveling, I met an Arab who was actually Eliyahu Hanavi in disguise, who asked me, shall I show you the spot where Korach and his followers were swallowed? And by the way, this comes from Tosfot in Gemara Brachot Yud Bet. Sources, woohoo! It says that Eliyahu led him to 2 openings in the ground in the desert, from which I saw smoke rising. This is Rabbi Bar Chana, okay? This is like a big player. This is not like a rumor on the street. If you haven't heard this, you're going to trip out. He brought a piece of moist cotton, stuck it to the edge of a spear, and inserted it into the earth. When he pulled the spear out, the cotton was singed. And by the way, it's interesting because today there was tons of fires in the Jerusalem forest. As I was walking around the shuk, there were embers everywhere. And then this thing almost caught on fire too, God forbid. And again, we have the sinkholes and the fire in the same in the parsha, right? Nothing new under the sun. So it says, when he pulled out the spear, the cotton was singed. He said, now listen carefully, said the Arab Eliyahu Hanavi. Out of the depths I discern the word. And it says that if you go to the desert today and you knew the spot, and I think it's on Rosh Chodesh, if you put your ear to the crack, you can hear the words, Moshe is true and so is his Torah. It was the confession of the Rashaim, who after their death must acknowledge the truth. The man informed me every 30 days these people are brought up here to repeat their confession. Then they're cast back into Gehenna to smolder there like meat in a roasting pan. And it says the sufferings of Gehenna bring home to their Sha'im that they sinned. And every month, Korach and his followers, till this day, recognize the severity of their crime more profoundly. They're doing tshuva on their tshuva, as Rabbi Nachman says. But they return to Gehenna to achieve an even deeper level of clarity of comprehension. The cycle continues until Tchiyat HaMetim, when they will have fully expiated their sin. That's insane. Now you want to know something even more insane? You want to know, this is crazy. I just learned this week that Korach comes back in the end of days as what? Kohen Gadol. That Korach will be our Kohen Gadol. And just as a side note, I feel like telling you, I learned somewhere that when you go through a level in spirituality, when you go up, you're actually as if going through a mikveh of fire. So you know those times when you're like, I can't take this, it's horrible, and you like there's a big contraction, everything stinks. That's because I give credit to my friend who's helping me stop cursing. I said stinks instead of another word. Yay! So, wait, now I lost my thoughts of pride. What was it?
Fire. The mikvah of fire.
Oh, mikvah of fire. That if you feel like terrible, like Korach went through a serious mikvah of fire, but in the end of the day, like it's not for nothing. Like Gamzu Letova, right? Okay, so here we go. And we see if we had more time, I would totally go into it. But we see that I think it's 11 of the Tehillim are Mizmor Shir Livnei Korach. And it even says, if you didn't think that was cool, because they did do tshuva, it even says that Korach's sons composed several psalms, and in it says, for example, in Tehillim 88, my life draws near to Sheol. That's the lowest level of Gehenna. I am reckoned with those who go down to the pit. And it talks about all how their riches meant nothing and everything like that. The story of Korach's sons is literally in there. All right, so, wait, where's the rest of my cards? All right, so here it is. So here's what it is. So I'm in Sam's house. I told you I learned something really deep. I asked, we're sitting around, and her brother-in-law was there, and I said, does anyone know anything about Korach? Like, I really want to start learning about Korach. And credit to Yisrael Perkel, he said, the first thing he said, and then I tripped my face off, he said, you know, Korach had a lot of validity. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? What did you just say? That's so profound. I don't need to hear anything more. Because this is the most humbling thing to think, right? That even if the person that we're in an argument or a fight with, we really don't agree with them, there's something about where they're coming from that for their experience is valid. And for me, when I struggle with arrogance or in the machloket that I'm currently in, I do not see the person that I'm in a fight with as valid. I'm trying to see why their needs are important and beautiful. But the first thing he said, were you sitting there? And I tripped out. You know, in the South African accent, can you South African accent it? You know, Korach had a lot of validity. Validity. Korach had right. None of the South Africans will speak. Thank you. Validity. Right. So it's really huge because, and by the way, it is the Arizal that cites that Korach will be the Kohen Gadol, and it says he learns this out from the pasuk Tzadik Tamar Yifrach. Why? Because if you look actually at the end, like the end of days, at Tzadik Katamar Yifrach, you'll find that the last three letters are Korach. Korach. So it's so confusing, right? It's so confusing, this life. And it's going to get worse next week, because we're entering into Chukat, which is all about paradox. But you know what? That's also the nature of our lives and our fights and our machloket, is when it's so confusing and we don't know what's going on, and I don't know who to believe, and my life is at stake because this one could be right and that one could be right, and this one really does have a point of truth, and they're gonna, and the worst person who burns in the fire and's been in hell for his entire eternity is gonna come back and be the greatest leader and priest of all time. So what can we do? It says in the Gemara in Brachot, and I don't remember the Hebrew on this one too, but I love it if anyone knows it. In Brachot 60b, all that God does is for the good. Is Kol Rachmana. Can you say it louder? Kol Rachmana. I know it's. Kol. Do you want to say it really loud? Kol. all right, it's really cool. Look up the verse.
That's next week's song.
But that's basically what I came to of all this research and all these hours of studying machloket. Is it's going to be really hard, and we can learn a lot about low blows, and we can learn a lot about blame, and we can learn a lot about projection. But at the end of the day, even when it's really, really confusing, it is also really important to remember that when you're in the middle of that fight like I am, it's not resolved. That kol
Called the Avid.
de'avid
Rahmana.
Rahmana
Latav.
Latav
Avid.
Avid Gamzu Latova, essentially. And it's crazy for me because personally, when I started to learn about Korach, the first thing I thought to do is go to Nachum Ish Gamzu, who's the rabbi who says Gamzu Latova, this too is for the good. And I just said to myself after the cover, like, wouldn't it be cool if Korach knew that everything was for the good? Then he wouldn't have tried to seize Moshe's power and whatever. But at the end of the day, it's so full circle because at the end of the day, no matter if we're machloket, we can learn all these lessons, but also the machloket is for the sake of the good, and we are like even Korach and like Moshe going somewhere with it. So I have a whole lesson plan, but the pizza is here. I had a whole game planned and lots more to share, but I want to end just with a bracha, and we'll do the raffle, and we can eat pizza and talk more. I just want to give us a bracha that, like, in the midst of like the craziness and the ego and the jealousy and the anger and all these things that we like look down on Korach for, but really we tend to, well, I won't say we. I definitely struggle with myself. I just bless us to keep learning every single year, every single week through the Parsha, to just gain that little bit of awareness that will help us come that much closer to the humility. That was South African, humility. That much closer to like our path, because like here we are, we're also 40 years in the desert, and there's no easy solution, and it's confusing. But the more we can be open and honest with ourselves and have our eyes open when we're in machloket or fight, I think, please God, the closer we'll come. And on that, 9 lucky people will get blessed to keep learning tonight. Can I have the raffle bag? Did anyone not get their name in? Okay, I'm gonna call it. Korach, come call the names.
Yes. Okay.
All right. Wait, guys, that was the shear. Woo! And then we're gonna do Kululu one more time before the pizza because it's too epic not to. All right, the 9 winners of tonight's books are. Oh wait, ask Hashem for help. The right people should get this. Okay.
Winner number 1
Is raise your
is
hand so I don't feel embarrassed if I don't know your name.
Simcha Chaya Butcher.
And Simcha is very special to my heart because we actually met in Zimbabwe and then reunited here. So that's like all these miracles. And I said I got to meet Elishev in Indonesia. I know. Miracles. And I met them in a falafel store. Seriously?
Wow.
No, that's amazing. Okay, go.
The next one is Fauci.
You guys get to work on your anger. I already have the book.
And the next winner is Miriam Gibor.
100% I knew you would win. I knew it. As I was writing it in there, I was like, should I rig it that Miriam gets one? And I was like, no, she's going to win.
And the next winner is no one else than Korach himself.
All right, there's 5 left. Who gets
Not
to
sure you
become
can
our
trust
humble?
Korach though, with telling the truth, right? Okay, the next winner is Ika.
Yay! See, it was worth it to touch the sheet. Okay, the next winner is.
And the next winner is Lara Star.
Oh, you see, you make Aliyah and you get rewards. Okay, 3 more.
Shira Nechama.
Yeah!
Oh, God, you. I forget to call you Nechama. Okay. Oh. Now, if you win, it'll be funny.
I'm waiting
And
Deborah Oppenheim.
and if you didn't get one, you should get it at the bookstore because they're like so beautiful. Okay, and the final winner of tonight.
The 9th winner of the night.
Hold on one second.
is
But if you didn't get a book, that's a kapara, which means Hashem should help the rest of us with our anger.
Amen.
I made that up. Okay.
Daniela Singer.
All right, so do Kulum for you one more time, Facebook.
Oh, nice.
Are you ready? Oh, we need our help. We need our volunteers.
Oh,
Guys, did I promise you a good time and it was such a good time?
Yes. Definitely.
Okay, are you ready? Here we go. Everyone knows the words. Lo yisagoy el goy charev, lo yomadu od, and then you repeat od milchama. Now, grammatically, you would say yisagoy, but because it's a song from my conservative upbringing, and I love my conservative Jews, but we say lo yisa. Not right, but that's how you sing the song. Are you ready? Okay, this section's ready. You're gonna have to learn it real quick. Ready? Lo yisagoy el goy charev, lo yomedu od. After me sweating for an hour, you better sing louder. Keep listening. One more time. Good job, louder. I need you. Louder, please. Can you clap now after now? Come on, last one. Here we go. Come on, you guys are difficult choir. One more time. Thanks, guys. That was a blast. It's time for pizza and schmoozing. Yay, thank you, Johnny. Thank you, Hashem. Thank you, JC. Thank you, Jodi.
That was amazing. Oh my God. That was so amazing.
Go team. We did it.
Amazing.
Yay.